Low-level significant weather prognostication charts, how and why. How is you go to aviationweather.gov and click on low for the low-level significant weather prognostication chart. The why is it shows us flight conditions and possible hazards for a specified date and time. The height above mean sea level for these charts is approximately 400 millibars or 24,000 feet. The date and time for this specific chart is Saturday, December 9th at 0000 Zulu. This chart is valid for 12 hours from the valid time. In other words, 1200 Zulu on December 9th. This chart expires. We identify the turbulence indicated on this chart by the orange, yellowish dashed lines. Over New Mexico, we see moderate turbulence from the surface up to 18,000 feet. Over Utah, extending down into Colorado, Texas, and all the way up to Washington State, we see turbulence, moderate, from surface level up to 24,000 feet. And then over North Dakota, moderate turbulence from surface up to 6,000 feet. We identify regions with a ceiling of less than 1,000 feet and a visibility of less than 3 miles with a solid red line. In the case of this chart, we see IFR conditions over Missouri and North Dakota. We identify freezing levels on these charts with the light blue dash lines and light blue zigzag lines. Light blue dash lines indicate a freezing level at the altitude listed within that line. In the case of California, Southern California, we see the freezing level is 12,000 feet. Northern California, 8,000 feet, into Oregon, 4,000 feet. But around Nevada, Utah, Colorado, extending north into Montana and North Dakota, we see the light blue zigzag line indicating freezing levels down to the surface. Typically, thunderstorms are identified on these charts by a shaded area with a system of triangles and dots to indicate unstable air and precipitation. Luckily, no thunderstorms are indicated on this chart today. Here we have the high-level significant weather prognostic chart. We view this chart again by going to aviationweather.gov. We use this chart for high altitude and international flights. It's used by dispatch and pilots to see flight levels from 25,000 feet up to 63,000 feet. It picks up where the low-level chart leaves off. This chart illustrates turbulence, volcanic ash, thunderstorms, as well as cyclones, squall lines, volcanic eruptions, and sandstorms, in addition to illustrating the jet streams, their locations, and their strength. This particular chart was issued on December 9th at 600 Zulu time, and it's valid for 24 hours. Thunderstorms are listed with a red scalloped line. The box inside lists the coverage: isolated, occasional, frequent, and embedded. The type of clouds, cumulonimbus. The altitude, in the case of the large one in South America, it starts at 50,000 feet, and the X's mean it goes down below the level of this chart, in other words, below 25,000 feet, so we have no way of knowing the bottoms of these clouds at this time. Turbulence is shown with a dash yellow line and a hat system similar to that of the low-level chart. In the case of this chart, we see severe turbulence over the American Southwest, below 25,000 feet up to 35,000 feet. And moving further east and north, we see turbulence all the way up to 41,000 feet, but with only moderate severity. Jet streams are illustrated on this chart with a solid green line. The speeds are indicated by flags, pennant flags, and tick marks. Each pennant flag is worth 50 knots, and the tick marks are worth 10 and 5. The double line indicates a change in wind speed of at least 20 knots. The altitudes for each jet stream are located in the box attached to it. In the case of the jet stream extending across Mexico through the American South and past Florida, the altitude is listed at 40,000 feet and the speed is approximately 100 knots. In the case of the jet stream from the mid to North Atlantic moving eastward, we see an extra set of numbers in the box. Those numbers indicate the core of the jet stream of at least 80 knots, but its strongest speed is between 58,000 feet and 100,000 feet. The independent boxes with the numbers indicate the level of the tropopause. Normal, high, and low are listed. So in the mid-Atlantic, the tropopause is higher than normal at 55,000 feet. In the North Atlantic, the tropopause is lower than normal at 22,000 feet. And off the Gulf Coast in Florida, it's a normal tropopause, 50,000 feet. This chart does not illustrate any squall lines or cyclones, but it does show volcanic eruptions in Central America with their approximate location and severity.